What's up, guys? What's up? Hey, bro. In focus. What's going on, dude? Or dudette. Although your picture looks like dude. Just checking out the soundtrack here. It's good stuff. Hold on, there's a really good part here. Hold on. Where is it? Where'd it go? I think this is the Arena Commander soundtrack. There we go. Brown, brown. It's kind of creepy. So good. So good. What's up, guys? So, the intention here, I'm actually, as I told some of you guys on the Mass Effect stream earlier, I'm way behind in my kind of Star Citizen stuff, so I want to kind of play catch up on a live stream, and if you guys want to join me, that'd be awesome. So this is an ATV marathon viewing party. There's 4 videos I want to get through in this. I don't know if I'm going to get through them all, but we'll see. There's the Around the Verse level design ATV. There's the what is Mega Map. I could probably save that to last. I might not get through that, but I definitely want to check out the Ship Pipeline Part 2. And because of my love for Star Wars Galaxies and the crafting portion, I want to try to get through the 10 for the Chairman as well. Professions. Alpha 3.0 Professions, so 10 for the Chairman. Chris doesn't do a lot of those 10 for the Chairman, so I'm kind of anxious to see what's going to go on there. For those that saw the Bahubali 2 trailer reaction, thank you for bringing that up to my attention. Did you guys see? Obviously you guys saw that, right? It was pretty sick. It was ridiculous. Especially the music too. Like the music was like not what I was expecting, that kind of electronic synth tone to it. It was really cool. Anyway. Take a couple bites of my pizza and then I'm gonna start the first one. I think I'm gonna do level design first. That's what I've been most interested in. We'll get that ready to go. Cool. What's been up? How you guys been? Let me know if you can hear me, by the way. Come here. You guys gotta see my new foster dog. Wife and I are fostering this dog. Really sad story, actually. This dog... Come here. Come here. Why don't you come say hi? Come up here. Come on. Alright. Not tall enough. I'll put the camera down real quick. Hey, boy. He's a good boy. Sorry. She's a good girl. She's 13... And she's 13, and she was just given up. She was actually a care dog. She was trained as a care dog, gentlest thing. Some separation anxiety, but she was 13, and the owners divorced, and that cited that as the reason as they gave her up. So we couldn't leave her in a crate. So anyway. Looking for a home for her, so she's ours for the time being. Cool. So let's start with Around the Verse level design. I want to check that out first. Again, let me know if it's too loud. Wanna come hang out with me? And she just sits here and puts her chin on my leg.
Hello and welcome to Around the Verse, our weekly look at the development of Star Citizen. I'm Sandy Gardner.
I don't think I've ever seen
Chris
Kirk
Roberts
Toom.
is busy as our Manchester
Kirk
office.
Toom.
I'm
Toom.
joined by lead technical designer Kurt Tomei. Thanks for being with us here today.
Butchered that shit.
Here, Sandy.
Our community team is at
Look
it
at Sandy's
again,
getup, man.
following
That's
up
pretty
their
cool.
appearance last week at PAX East with a visit to South by Southwest this week. And this Saturday, the Austin studio will be hosting a panel as part of the festival.
The team will share details about the Avocati testing group, the importance of the Issue Council, and more. So if you're attending South by Southwest, you should definitely stop by.
Later in the show, the design team will reveal what goes into the modular designs for levels and layouts in Star Citizen. But first, let's head out to Erin Roberts in the UK.
Her hair looks
our
flatter,
studio
doesn't it?
Update. So let's take a look.
That's interesting.
Hi everyone, I'm Aaron Roberts. I head up global production at Cloud Improvement Games and I manage our European studios.
He looks so much like his
I'm
brother.
based here in our Foundry 42 Winslow office, which is about 10 miles south of Manchester in the northwest of England. We are now at 201 people in this office and we have a further 9 employees at our new small Derby studio in the East Midlands.
How you doing, Jamie?
It focuses on mainly facial animations, but also some body animation for Squadron 42 and Star Citizen. Already this year, we've hired 22 new staff, and for a bit of fun, we worked out the combined games development experience of everyone in Foundry 42 UK, which comes to 1,510 years. We've just finished work on the expansion of the first floor of Freedom House in Winslow, which has given us back some badly needed space.
What kind of Cheerios are those? Damn it, I
Into
missed
just
it.
2 floors for the last 3
Didn't
months.
recognize them.
It wasn't great. The new floor is definitely a breath of fresh air and has given us 76 new desk spaces.
They've been amazing.
2 conference rooms named Retribution
Good.
and Gladius,
Good.
and a great new break area called Fortune's Cross. Some of these names you know, others you'll be introduced to as Star Citizen grows. We've got a pretty big update for you guys. So
Are
let's
those
get
Star
into some
Citizen
of the
pool
details
tables?
about what we've been up
I just
to
saw the logo
this
at the last
summer.
second.
On the programming side, we've been working on a number of systems to really push the quality.
That's what the
of
money went into,
both
guys.
Squadron 42
No, I'm just kidding.
and the persistent universe. We've completed Sprint 2 of the player interaction system, which improves how the player interacts with items or picks up objects using the new highlighting and inner thought systems. This will allow a much more intuitive and accessible UI experience for players, clearly identifying what they can interact with, as well as a clean, smooth experience while doing so. The new system, or the new mission system,
I'm really looking
is
forward to the item
moving
system.
Really well. We are now on Sprint 3 and designer using the new tool.
I don't know of a game that does anything like this for their items.
The old flow graph missions, which were not scalable to the need of our dynamic universe, are going away to be
I know,
replaced
you want
with a
some.
tool which can create diverse and systemic missions, giving the player an abundance of different and diverse mission types. Also tied into this, the design team here is now also using the new Frankfurt developed system editor tool known as Solid to visually put together our system maps.
They're building missions with Bezier curves, just like
Both
an
of these
animation.
tools will really
Not really,
increase
but-
the productivity of our design teams. We've completed 2 locomotion sprints.
Is
The
this
first
Mass Effect?
to blend the walk
I'm just
into
kidding.
full run and back to walk animation sets to create a much more realistic feeling for player inertia whilst using the keyboard. The second sprint was to vastly improve AI path following so characters traverse close spaces and blend between animations in a much smoother manner. Our graphics team has been busily working on improving and optimizing the lighting in the game. One major part of this work is a major upgrade to the quality and accuracy of rectangular lights. which
I'm not
will
playing them.
feature
I'm
the
catching up
accuracy
on
being
Star Citizen
requested due
videos,
to the
Joy.
prevalence of these types of lights in
Welcome
science
back,
fiction
though.
films. Typically, game support to the rectangular lights is very limited due to their very high cost, which is why we've spent a lot of time optimizing our shaders to make them viable. The diffuse lighting and the reflections are now much closer to real-world behavior. And the
Yeah,
difference this makes
that
to
looks
our
cool.
character lighting is absolutely huge. On the networking side, the team is finished.
Just a quick note, Joy. I don't know if you saw the Bow Belly 2 reaction. I watched it shortly after the Mass Effect thing. Unbelievable. That trailer kicks ass. I cannot wait. And I'm calling it now. It's a dream sequence or it's a vision to the future where he has to die. That's what that is. All right, back to Star Citizen.
Finishing off the serialized variable which will reduce network bandwidth
What?
for the PU. They finished the new message queue to make the sending and receiving of packets more stable and are finishing off the new multiplayer.
I got 2 more
menu
slices in the kitchen if
players
you want
can
them.
quickly traverse to different game modes without the long load times of the past.
Glass of water and
Animation
some
has been very
whiskey.
busy also.
It's going to be a good
Lock
night.
and reload firing, hand posing select and deselect work has been worked on for the P4AR, P8SC, P8AR, Devastator Shotgun, Railgun Gallant and Arrowhead. Previous work has been done for the oxygen and stamina sprints, as well as feedback on the female rig, so we can lock down final posing. Other work includes a no weapon
Look at that gun.
pass update, stock sprint update, and the prone combat animation pass. Our facial animators in our Derby studio have been focusing on a lot of S42 work to bring our characters and story to life, as well as work on the PU for 3.0 to support fixes, bartenders,
Is that Mark Hamill?
and general population wildlines. The concept team's work is ongoing on the Aegis Reclaimer interiors. The team has worked on a second pass on weapons to improve reload visuals and add detail where needed, and work has been ongoing on.
Yeah, what does WKKB mean,
There's
dude?
also
I
been
didn't
a lot
look
of
it up.
concept work for both our PU and Squadron 42 environments to give our artists strong direction on our planetary landscapes, habitations, and landing locations, but also for our space environments and space stations. And it is looking really cool.
Hi. I'm gonna start streaming this game after I'm done with Mass Effect. Playing around.
Moving on to the environment team, has lots of ongoing work with Squadron 42, but has also started early work on the truck stop exteriors, including the interior modularity, to show the variety of locations we will be able to place in the PU. The team has been working to keep the art style consistent while also accommodating all the functionality required by design.
Okay,
Planetary service.
I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, right? But why Catapult killed Bob? all right, that's fun. That's fair. Don't want to be a Debbie Downer at all, okay? Because this is not finalized or anything, but
The team has been working to keep the art style consistent. The team.
I don't know. It's hard because the modularity thing, like, I understand modularity is needed, especially on this kind of scale and this. Like, you can't just hand make everything. I get it. But right there, doesn't that look like a lot of other games?
The art style consistent while also
I'm just throwing it out
the
there.
functionality required
It's
by
not hate.
design.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Planetary service outposts are just finishing their initial art sprint, and the base building set is complete. The team have all the elements needed to create small outposts.
But then who am I to talk? Like,
configurations
if we actually
that
go
can
to
be
space
set
and we
up
start
so that they
settling
can be
planets,
distributed across different landscapes. Now we have our building
this is
blocks
what it's going to
that
look
start
like.
adding
It's going to be
details
modular,
with
metallic,
detail.
boxy.
Also, with the surface
stuff like
outposts,
this.
the
That's
team
what it's
is
gonna look
developing
like.
How our
So-
shaders are going to react when we place these architectural
What do I
elements
know?
in various biomes. We are looking into a system which will help give us believable systemic integration without having to invest lots of bespoke art time. Lastly, the environment team has been investing time in creating the visual targets for our space look and feel. Not only do we want to add lots of detail to our locations, moons and planets, but also we want space itself to be exciting and interesting to explore.
You see how it separates?
Traveling through anything from a nebula or dense asteroid field to a space storm or an anomaly.
Every time I play this, I'm going to break down crying, I think. Especially with music like that in the background. So good.
The visual effects team has been focusing on a lot of planning to support our new planetary environments, including atmospheric flight effects and modular procedurally generated surface spaces. Work has been done on thruster and damage effects for the Constellation Aquila, high-tech damage effects library updates, building on last month's explosion template, and also
looks good.
further polish to ballistic SMG weapons. The UI team has been working incredibly hard over the last months putting together what you guys have already seen with the new front-end interfaces from 2.6 and are still strongly ploughing ahead with the needs of both the PU and S42. This month's work has progressed on our new kiosk shopping interface, proven out by our prototype, which allows us to make sure it works in all our locations and shop types.
Interesting.
Also, we're continuing on improving all our in-game HUD UI, whether walking around or on a ship. The audio team, as always, are
That's a
supporting
first look at
all
the-
sprints and tie
Interesting.
into and support most of the work the other teams do. This month, the standout tasks included fixing up performance issues and tool improvements, audio for new ships including the Dragonfly, Connie Aquila, Prospector and Buccaneer,
The sounds are going to be sound effects, sound design.
Work on the music composition.
You see the shadow? It's like
42 in the
airborne.
PU, speech processing, fixes to weapon audio, and finally Foley work so the right noises can be heard from differing material types. Anyway, that's it from the UK office this month. I hope you all enjoyed the update.
Well
and gave
done.
you some insight into how much is going on, not only in this office, but all throughout CIG, as a lot of these features we talked about are a collaboration between teams spanning sometimes all 5 of our studios. Hopefully you get an interesting glimpse of why the team is working so hard to create a universe and level of immersion never seen in a computer game before. This is truly why Star Citizen will be the best damn space sim ever.
The best
Once
damn
again,
space
I'd
sim
like
ever.
to thank all our subscribers for helping us put together these updates together, and of course everyone in the community for your incredible support. You are all powering us on to make this groundbreaking universe and dream come alive. It's really appreciated by everyone here at Cloud Imperium Games. Thank you all, and I'll see you in the verse.
Thanks, Aaron. It's wonderful to see all the ways the Manchester office works with other studios to improve the persistent universe.
Yeah, I can't wait to experience all the different missions and locations that'll be available as the PU grows. While we're on the topic of the expanding PU, designing levels and layouts for Star Citizen is unlike level designing for any other game. While most games only
feel like
take the players from point
I want to
A
host this just because I don't want to go by the
Star
script.
Citizen
I want to be
needs
like,
feel like a livable place. So traditional
give me the
games
talking
don't
points and I'll run with it.
always work.
Which is why we sat down with the game director, Todd Pappy, and lead level designer, Andreas Johansson. Up next, they'll share how their level design process is unique.
oh, I thought we got the level design already. This is cool. All right.
So today we kind of want to talk about our level design process and in particular towards the persistent universe and how that differs from what we
Is that a vest or a
traditional
shirt he's wearing? What is
level
that?
design processes. Both of us can come from a
Oh,
very
sure.
traditional level design process,
Zip
which
up.
is you're building everything very bespoke. You start with where the level, what the level goal is, where it starts, where it ends, and then everything getting from the start to end is tailor-made, and the path
They don't seem too
is
excited.
completely chosen and tweaked and tuned by the designer as well as the artist's intel.
No, leave it, man. Leave the message. I already said it. You can't take it back.
All of the challenges that we need to build and solar systems that we need to build in S42 or in S42 as well as persistent universe.
It's because they've been at it for 5 years,
our
man.
Traditional experience from there. So we started talking about a
Hey,
modular
Element.
system
How you doing, man?
and, what
Stick around
it
after the
allows
credits
us to
on
do
this
is
ATV. Ooh.
basically build archetypes.
It's a good thing you told me that because I would have X'd that. I would have went out to the next one.
Go through and start switching out different modular pieces. So why don't you kind of run us through like a truck stop or
our greatest challenge is like how do we populate the universe that is the size of our game with enough content to make it feel alive, right? We have 100 solar systems in the game. We might have 50, we might have 100 space stations. Even if we have 100 space stations, we're looking at 10,000 locations which we have to build. And with the small team we have, 4 level designers, it would take us about 650 years to build that the traditional way. Which
Wait,
was-
they only have
it's
4
totally
level
achievable
designers?
in our lifetime,
I mean, it's a
think.
long-term job security, right?
Exactly.
So I mean, the only way we can really do that is like Todd said, is like with a modular system. We do build our locations with a tile set, which is small pieces of walls and corners and doors that we put together into rooms. But this is still not fast enough. We have to find a quicker way to do this. So the way we can approach this is to looking into grouping these smaller tile sets into bigger entities, rooms. We have kitchens, we have toilets, we have locker rooms, we have lobbies, we have everything that you can imagine that you need on a space station.
I get it. It's
Make
just
it feel believable.
Yeah,
and
exactly. So instead of building every location unique, we build these rooms.
this is like my only big
library
problem with
assets,
with Star
and then
Citizen.
we
That's
can
it. Like I love
use these assets to
everything that comes out of this stuff.
Correct, but even then, when we're talking about like a base,
I just
level
worry about the modularity,
of
man.
an archetype or something like that, we're talking about a very neutral feel and look to that, so that when we start adding these modular pieces in a hub section or something like that, so that
And that's only
you
because
don't really notice. You know,
We've seen it
if
fail so
those
much,
base
right?
assets are in that neutral set, then you really start noticing the repetition
Yep.
and everything.
So I mean, when we build things, we build everything using a template tile set, which is a complete as Todd said, like a neutral. It has no textures and nothing special on it. And then we build out the basic shapes, and we define the purpose of the room, and then we can convert that into many different types of themes, low-tech, high-tech, all the things we have. But we also have another level on top of that, which is the content of the room itself. So when you do a game that is an MMO, almost all MMOs use some kind of modular system or some kind of tile set to build their locations. You will always see repetition at some point. You will go into a location and say, well, I've been in this room before.
Sure.
And we want to get away from this. So we've gone through many iterations of the modular system. We tried to figure out how can we alleviate this in the best way possible. How can we make sure that even if it is the 5th time you go through this very room, it still feels different.
And so we have a couple of different ways of doing that.
Yeah.
Like Andrea said, we have the tile sets, so what we would consider low-tech, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, as well as high-tech, and then we have super modernism and a few other tile sets that will still need to be built and worked on. Then from there, we have wear and tear associated with that. So there's dirt passes. How pristine is this truck stop? Is it in the middle of Crusader? So therefore, there's a lot of money that's around that one. So that one will be in very pristine condition versus something that is out in the middle of nowhere and it's super run down and it feels more like a mom and pop or Route 66 kind of truck stop or something like that. Then from there, we've got.
Okay, that was a good example, I guess.
With the actual props.
I wouldn't know I was in the same room.
And then we also have the different levels of power, piping that can go in there, and so we can make it feel more like a derelict, or it's up and running and it's got a certain amount of hustle and bustle associated with it based off of the AI or what is happening in the solar system at that time.
Yeah. So if you go back to, for example, the props that Todd mentioned, that is something that is. It's a very useful tool for us to change up the feeling of a location. So the way we're kind of moving right now is that we won't actually create, let's say, a bathroom and fill it with all the props that it needs. What we'll do is we'll create the shape of a bathroom and we'll fill it with area shapes and volumes which can spawn in assets in different constellations. And that means that you might go into exactly the same bathroom in one station and it looks one way. You do the same bathroom in another station, and there's a different amount of toilets, there's a different amount of sinks, the mirrors are in a different place, so it looks different. So by using these kind of systems, we can
Fair enough. All right.
get a great amount of variation from our smaller component rooms and make the stations feel unique and different, even though you're actually playing through a similar room.
I don't know what I'm bitching
In the
about.
process,
Most of our shit has 4 walls, right? So I mean, it's not like
I think we really started on this maybe.
I'm looking for them to invent something new besides
a half ago.
a normal framework,
At that point, it was just.
It really is about what's in it.
And another level designer that was really focused
Sub-wall
on
division and
this.
stuff.
And now we have the other resources really coming in, meaning art is coming in and working on how do we do this from an internal perspective, but also from an external perspective on the space stations, and how do we make these things have unique silhouettes associated with them, so that when you're coming up to it, you get a very clear read of what you're coming to, the size of it, and what is it meant to be? Is it meant to be a very large space station, or is it meant to be a small little space station out in the middle of nowhere? And then from there, we also have a tech artist / coder that is working with us to build our modular system, so that this will allow us to run this tool, which will allow us to take these different shapes and combine them together with unique points of interest in those, and then basically kind of randomize it, run through it, play it, see what it feels like, randomize it again, and then this will allow us to generate the stations that as quick as we possibly can, because we do have a lot
Layers
of
of detail to show the
content that we
history
need to
of the
build. It's
station.
just building up these tools and building up these
Interesting.
these rooms and the pipeline, to actually flip the switch and really pump these things out.
Yeah. So I mean, one of the processes we're looking into is we won't actually build We won't have a level designer sitting and dragging rooms in and constructing a space station. That's not how we're going to build it, because we have the libraries of all the rooms that we can use in a space station. We have all the procedural generation of the props that exist in the rooms. The way we're going to build it is that we're going to create a basic flow chart of a station, which indicates where rooms are supposed to be. You start with a hub, that you come from an elevator, you go into a hub, you might move into another corridor that has like a locker room or has a diner attached to it, and we build this flow in a scripting tool. And then from that flow, we can generate a seed, and we generate a location.
Yeah.
The edit will generate a location based on that flow.
They're selling me on it. I get it.
Taking the
Like,
seed, we
okay.
can generate many different space stations with the same flow that will look completely different because it gets different types of bathrooms. We specify it needs a bathroom. So one location has a small one, another one has a medium one.
Different stores.
Different stores. It has different props in the rooms when you go into the location. So a space station will always look the same.
The props that are in there
Based on the same
with the
sequence.
item 2.0, are you gonna be able to interact with
Might
all
have the
those
same
items?
hub, but they actually feel different because they have different props.
Actually, that's a bigger question.
Of doors and connectors.
Could we theoretically not like
With that, a level
inventory
could
inventory
technically
everything, but could we pick
pull
up
out
and throw
20
shit or
space
whatever?
stations in a day.
I
But
don't
of
thi-
course, we have to go in
Yes.
and
Like
double
normal-
check all that
normal props,
information.
like a
We
plant.
cannot just generate ship to the persistent universe
Right.
like job's done. You know, that doesn't work like that. We have to go in and verify the layout. So even though we can generate a large amount of seeds and large amount of different stations, we still have to do the proper work. We have to go through, check the consistency of everything, see that it works, see that we don't walk into a room and it's a door into space and everyone has a very bad day.
We don't know exactly how this will play out. I mean, we have our ideas, and I think once we're fully through the R&D phase and it can actually generate, 15, 20 different truck stops, we start seeing where the repetition happens, and then at that point, it will be trying to work out how can we cut down that repetition.
All right.
And then the other thing is
Here's the
full
thing.
house with different
They're
architectures.
telling me that, right? They're telling us that right now.
Feel
So
like there's
at least I know they're
to
conscious of
this
the
area
repetition.
over
You know,
and over
like
and over again.
call.
We're still very early.
Call
in
me
the
a pessimist,
process.
but-
we're in white box phase, and
That's part of the communication, right? They're letting me
really
know
the artists have started to come in now and are breaking down
that
these
there is
concepts,
repetitious drawbacks to
for,
this.
the
right.
satellites for the
I'm happy
planetary outposts as well
for
as
now.
for the truck stop. Those are kind of the three main ones that we're focusing on right now, and each one of them, require kind of their own unique thought process on kind of the modularity and how those things work. The overall idea is still the same. It's just how do those things connect together is very different.
I just want to iterate, we're not planning.
My dog's
50
bored.
Space stations per day. That's not
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
yeah.
It's the
My foster
possibility
dog's
of
bored.
generating the layouts. The actual
Yes.
stations will take quite a bit longer because you still have to make sure.
My other dog is at a dog show.
it works, so.
With this modular system, this is really to build out what we would consider our lower or even mid-tier space stations. We will still have very bespoke layouts. So, for example, if you think about Grim Hex or you think about Hurston or Area 18, these are very bespoke layouts that we go through and do handcraft. In the future, I think all of us would like to see if this system would work in actually building a city and doing it procedurally. But this is really to build up the other 95% of the content that is in the universe besides just these big bespoke landing areas.
The way work has evolved over time from being not only level designers but more kind of spatial architects, where when in a traditional game, when you build a level, you have to think about the gameplay, you have to think about covers and flow and where the enemy is going to spawn and all these kind of things. And this is not really what we're doing when we're building our locations, because we want this to feel real, we want it to feel believable. It should be a place where people live and work for months at a time. So when we build these locations, we have to think about how does rooms connect together, what is the flow, how would people actually build this? It's much more thinking about the space as kind of a living area for people instead of a gameplay space. And that is why the role of the designer, especially the level designer in this, has kind of evolved into being a little bit more than just kind of gameplay oriented.
It's less about path from point of interest to point of interest to point of interest. This is, and it's more about making sure that these areas feel absolutely believable, and that you understand that there was a thought process behind creating this.
Also, being a space game, it gives us a little bit extra, because if we would go to space in the future as the human race, we would build things modularly.
Okay.
Even though I work with a lot.
I know, but from it's a game perspective, like that right there, right?
Strange of an
Like
approach
if you
to
go into your
building
75th
things
one,
to
like are you not gonna have the same feeling you have
for repairs and for expansion of other things? So you might
in like No
end
Man's
up
Sky
going
or
to a location in space, and it's a pirate base, but you can clearly see that this at some point was an old mining outpost that, after the ore ran out, it got transitioned over to
the old Halo,
a
like the
nightclub
Halo
for
outposts and stuff like that.
mercenaries,
Like
and it got taken over by pirates, and now you have this.
Which is basically what Grimhex is.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
it's all party there.
Yeah. This is actually where we're at in the level design process, and I know it's taken us a long time to get to this point, but there's a lot of research and development that
and the fact that 95% of like just let's throw out some numbers, right? 95% of the truck stops
these areas
are going to be some form of that, right?
Definitely hasn't been.
Maybe there'll be some handcrafted ones, but there's going to be these metal
Exactly.
cubicle containers
I
on
appreciate
planets
the
that you
amount of
go in
detail they
and
put into designing each truck stop and space station, especially with the assistance of the modular system.
I agree, and it's really going to help the
I get
PU
it.
feel authentic. And that's it for this episode of ATV. But
Yeah,
before we go,
okay.
we'd like to thank all of our subscribers whose contributions allow us to make shows like this, Citizen of the Stars, Bug
they're
Smashers,
doing
and
modular
Frankfurt.
right. That's my
If you're not a
they're doing wait, why is there so oh, you said stay after
subscriber
the
and are
credits,
interested
sorry.
in learning more, click on the link.
I was like, why is there so much
in the
time left in this?
below.
Of course, Star Citizen wouldn't exist without our backers. So big thank you for everything. We wouldn't be here without you.
No, we wouldn't. And please join us tomorrow at 12 Pacific for Star Citizen Happy Hour. Jared Huckabee, Tyler Whitkin, and community
Joy, I
speaker
know.
Rick
It's
Spitter
the same
will be
thing. It's
playing
just
Star Marine with fans in Alpha 2.6.1.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you.
like
Around
alien
Earth.
races. Like it'd be nice. Like okay, we hit up some alien races and they don't use metal and they don't use.
Oh wait, didn't I mention the UK makes ships too? Hope you enjoy.
What? What is this? The Razor sneak peek. The Hull C. Oh, that's the medium freighter, right? Wow, that looks right out of Mass Effect. Wait, is this the Hull C or the Razor? Ah, what is that? Is that the... Is that the core? Is that the energy core? It's not nuclear, right? Fusion core. That looks sick, actually. That looks kind of sick. If you could play that, if that's a mini game, I will buy this game for all my friends. Of course, the Aegis. You think is that core detail? Is that core detail on the outside of the actual model? Are they saying that all these ships came out of the UK office? Do you see the installation? That's cool. Oh, it's my home. I want that in my new background right there. Right there. Halved up. Halved up. That was tight. Oh, they got a new credit sequence. That's cool. You're right. That was good, guys. Is the
Thank you for watching. So
I'm gonna check out the ship pipeline if you guys recommend that one. Is the 10 for the chairman the professions? Like that sounded really interesting, but if you it was the gravity generator. Okay. It was the oh, someone said it was the FTL drive. Is the 10 for the chairman any good? Is there a lot of good information? Keeping in mind that I'm kind of big on the professions. But all right, let's check out the ship pipeline here.
Hello, and welcome to Around the Verse, our weekly look at the development of Star Citizen. I'm Eric Kyron Davis, Senior Producer.
And I'm Steve Bender, Animation Director over here at CIG. So, Eric, I heard you'll be on a WonderCon panel this Saturday?
Yeah, I'll be joining narrative designer Chris Avalone, author Janice Davis, screenwriter Adam G. Simon, and composer Sean
that,
to discuss how
that
to
FTL drive looks
as
sick.
a creative professional.
Well, very cool. And that's for WonderCon attendees?
Yes, if you have a badge, you can attend. And I'd love to see anyone who can make it there on Saturday. Event details can be found online in your WonderCon program.
Awesome.
Oh, this one just came out yesterday.
We have a great episode today. To celebrate its reveal in the 262 patch, we can finally share part 2 of the ship pipeline video that follows the completion of the Drake Buccaneer.
But first, let's go to Brian Chambers in Germany for their studio update.
Brian,
Hi,
I miss you,
everyone.
Brian.
I am Brian Chambers, the development director here at Foundry 42 Frankfurt. We started Foundry 42 Frankfurt a little over 2 years ago with
Is his beard getting redder?
This past month, we just signed our 7th member of the team, 7-0. We've come a long way in a short time from an office mostly filled with empty desks to now an almost full office working across most all disciplines.
That's cool.
This
The bridge.
past month has been busy as usual. At one point, we had, I believe, 15 visitors here from other offices working across various disciplines. We occasionally travel to the other offices to meet and discuss future plans, review progress in certain areas, kick off large tasks, etc. So let's jump right into it, see what the team's been working on over the past.
I think Chris is like, all
Starting
right,
off with the
80% of the shots in the
weapons
meeting
team,
rooms have to be of
FPS
me
weapon
talking.
Artist finished a second art pass on the Klaus and Werner Arclight 2, the Gallant, and the Arrowhead. These now include new venting mechanisms which add...
Isn't it cool? Hold on, let me pause this for a second. Look at this. Look at the detail. You don't see this a lot, like in actual games. Like there's metal, like the metal looks good, the plastics look good in like the games, but like the rubber shit, like the rubber Teflonite or the that is actually on certain firearms and stuff like that. Like it comes across really well in these models here, like in the hand grips and stuff like that, like the little rubberized portions. Like, they look good.
Doing things such as reloads and so on. They also completed the first art pass on the Kastak Arms Ravager 212 and a second art pass on the Kastak Arms Devastator with an additional layer of detail. For the ship weapons, we completed all the rockets and rocket pods, ranging from size 1 all the way to 3, as well as the first art pass for the Knightsbridge Arms ballistic cannons. We can now use those various sizes to test out the new modularity system and various upgrade levels and combinations to see what we can come up with. In the office here in Frankfurt, we recently hired a lead lighting artist to work with our global lighting team. One of his first tasks was modular surface outpost and determining how we'll integrate lighting in such a way that it feels coherent across potentially countless permutations of the outpost layout. Every single room could have a different arrangement of props and objects, which then dictates where lights would logically be placed, as well as the specific theme or mood for that room that we're after. For example, crew sleeping quarters need to have a different mood than a hydroponics lab, etc. Our first step, though, is to integrate simple lighting variations into the procedural system so we can discover and solve any issues that may arise, such as light leaking through walls or certain lighting variations looking incorrect when placed next to each other and so on. Really see what conflicts. At the same time, these technical challenges, we're also focusing on creating a visual target for our main room types: habitation, hydroponics, engineering, storage. See how far we can push the lighting to match our concepts and goals.
Has there been any word on, like, let's take the hydroponics lab, for instance?
When these are finished, we can then
each of those chambers, right? Is that something you can upgrade or buy additional chambers of and increase your yield and stuff like that?
System and be applied to all the other procedural bits we have. The tech art team here in Frankfurt worked on multiple skinning tasks this month, including clothing for both the PU and Squadron 42 to widen the range of customer character customization, and a skinning pass on the final Vandul mesh so the animators can work across on their animations. They worked on a tool for the animators to redirect their walking animations to turn animations.
By the way, welcome Adrian and Liam.
But ultimately to reduce the time the animators need to spend on creating those specific
I'll call you 143.
animations. In a sense, it allows us to reuse and recycle.
Gibson, what's up? Welcome.
They also created a tool to allow the team to quickly update the exact grip placement of individual weapons. Artists can now use a reference.
Did you guys watch the 10 for the
offset,
chairman, the
hit
professions
export,
thing? Was there
and
good
immediately
information in there?
See the changes live in Engine. This thing makes things much more efficient, allows them to iterate much more quicker than they did before. The level design team here in Frankfurt's busy working on the modularity of space stations and surface outposts, as seen in a recent ATV episode.
Oh, really?
As an initial proof of concept, we have 5 versions of the outposts that we're moving forward with. In the future, we'll be able to create a large number of outposts with different layouts and purpose. But as an initial step, we focus on just a few to ensure that the systems, props, placement of planets, blah, 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 all working together as we intend. The truck stop is our first test of modularity in space stations. We've been working on customizable hubs to be able to create variations using add-ons and procedural plot placement to add flavor to various rooms. The modularity of space stations also extends to how the rooms connect to one another following pre-made flowcharts. We're currently working with engineers
it was Tony rambling as always.
Game and get it all going the way we actually intended to be. The system design team has been continuing their work.
I won't watch it here then. I'll just watch the other Around the Verse.
We've also recently discussed. They've also been working with the cinematics team and helping.
The stream is officially 40 minutes shorter.
The look and feel that we'll have for the conversation system, and the progress is going good. For the engine team, we generally discuss what they've been doing for the procedural tech, and they've continued to make great progress there. But I thought I'd dig a little bit deeper into a couple areas this month. So, yeah, here goes. We finally finished the physics grid refactoring, which is used to store each individual physical object in the world and to allow for fast neighbor queries, such as give me all the objects within 10 meters. And it has all the bells and whistles now active. The old legacy cryphysics grid system worked by projecting the entire world onto a fixed 2D array of cells of uniform dimension. For memory reasons, the old system was configured to huge cell sizes to allow for our massive worlds, which led to severe performance problems when dealing with lots of small objects, as well as lots of entities returned due to the fact that the grid would wrap around
every other update seems like they're doing some sort of optimization to this game, right?
Issues, the new grid system was designed to have
that instills a lot of confidence, doesn't it? Like, it does for me anyway.
Nested 3D grid cells of various sizes, where objects would get inserted into different levels of the fixed hierarchy.
Can you imagine if there's like a big bug like that comes out in like a BioWare or an EA game or a Ubisoft game? If this game has one of those bugs, like,
down to small
the internet will break.
A few centimeters across. Initial performance tests, once
their offices will be
and
firebombed.
the Crusader have proven the new grid to be vastly more efficient. 10 times less entities return for small queries, and queries in general faster in the magnitude of 1.2 to 2 times, while using slightly more memory than our legacy system. On the animation front, our lead animation engineer, Ivo Herzeg, has been busy for quite some time.
It's so sick. Look at that,
He's been building
guys.
the core foundation of our AI movement. I want to give you some insight into his progress and give you some examples of what he's been working on. Most of our animations were motion captured, which is a perfect solution for cutscenes and all types of.
Hold on, I gotta go back for a second. Check this out.
On the animation front, our lead animation engineer, Ivo Herzeg, has been
Get the bounding boxes off. That's gonna be fun. This makes me miss my modeling days.
For both the player and the AI. To use the
Modeling
data
days, not
in interactive
modeling days.
situations, we must break down the longer motion clips into shorter clips and generate multiple variations of the same motion style. As an example, for a simple walk cycle, we need walking at different speeds, walking in circles, walking on slopes, and walking in different directions such as strafing, etc. A typical AI character in Squadron might have about 1,000 of these small little motion clips. It's impossible to create unique animation clips for every single given situation. That's why we developed a blending technique that we call parametric blending, which enables all these clips to be controlled at runtime.
Is this a proprietary blending
Parametric
technique?
blending takes the concept of simple animation blending and
Probably
moves
not.
it to the next level. The goal is to make the outcome of the transitions or an interpolation predictable for an undefined number of assets. Each motion clip contains a combination of physical and stylistic properties. We call those the natural motion parameters because they're inherently part of the motion itself. To control a character in a game, we want to pass these natural motion parameters to the animation system and let it generate the motion we need itself. Once we have enough animation clips, we put them into what we call a blend space. The most important aspect of a blend space is that each animation clip represents a point in a coordinate system, and all points are connected by an index list. In a blend space, we treat blending as a geometrical problem. The geometrical relationship between the animation clips is extremely important for the blending to work correctly. And the placement of these assets into the blend space is set up so it's fully automatic due to how the animators set up their locators before they export their animation.
The quick spin was kind of, that's
In
cool.
a single blend space, we can have more than 100 unique animations.
They have like super tight circular
and we can
animations.
control all of them like a single animation. What you see here is an example of a 2D blend space. In this case, we put the travel speed on the X and the turn speed on the Y. We can move the red cursor over the plane, and for each coordinate, we get a blended motion with the correct parameters. This means we can generate all motions between a slow walk and a fast walk while maintaining the correct turn speeds. In this test area, we can move the cursor in any place or direction and always get the correct blended motions back.
Yeah, that's cool.
Here's an example of parametric starts and stops that lead in and out of the walk cycle. You can see how a character starts to walk in the direction we select, and then he walks at different speeds with different turn angles and stops to the left, right foot, left foot, etc. Blend spaces are not only limited to simple motion cycles. They can be used for most AI motions in our vast universe, enabling our AI characters to move.
The blend shapes are
fluidly and
always where the
realistically
feet
throughout
in
the
other
entire
games,
world.
the feet
It's great to see Evo's progress.
slide.
It's definitely going to have a strong impact on how our AI navigate around the world. The engine team also did improvements to
That's
the
cool. You see the
object
feet go out
blending with
right when he
terrain.
stopped.
The underlying terrain and object shapes are now taken into account to blend procedurally distributed objects more naturally with the planetary generated environment. And hope to show you those improvements soon. The QA team here in Frankfurt grew by 1 member this past month, James Stevens, our new senior QA tester. He immediately stepped up and took charge of pioneering the testing of the loadout editor.
How many of you guys use
the
a
loadout editor is
joystick?
heavily used by our devs across
Flight
all
stick.
4 locations, so it only made sense for us to increase the depth of testing we do for it on a daily basis.
Probably got to get one, huh?
Melissa Estrada also spent some time
If I want to kill you
testing
guys.
the first version of the Solar System Editor, also known as SOLED. The engineers went over SOLED's functionality. We gathered initial feedback from the team. QA was there, they documented all the feedback, and now they'll work closely with the engineers to find the best way to address each item and how to test it and work with them in the future to get all those resolved. They also supported the engine team with testing of a few separate things, such as updated planet physics grid and refactoring of the texture streamer logic.
I like to see how the
AI
planetary
team
physics
this month
grids work.
Completed some work on
How they separate it out.
mission-related functionalities for both the PU and Squadron 42 designers. They also worked on improving the setup for complex conversation scenarios where multiple characters need to interact with one another. The first step to achieve this was to allow the subsumption logic to run on top of the players.
You have an old one?
This allows us
Like
to
from Wing Commander
execute
days
some
old?
logic on the players on predefined story scenes.
It takes an
but
old
also
serial
make sure
port.
that the AI system can fully communicate.
I
with
still have my
the
old
player
space orb.
and interact with them.
I wish there was a new one I could
subsumption
use on
tool,
that.
which you've heard a lot about, has also had some improvements on the conversation setup and kicked off work on what we call the conversation sub-activities. The sub-activities describe the logic for multiple characters in one view to make it easier for designers to synchronize interactions between the characters and the environment. Under the hood, these conversations will still result in unique sub-activities that will run on different characters so that we can still guarantee that each individual entity can still handle further events and situations on their own. They also completed the first pass on refactoring of the perception for spaceships. We currently
Wow.
have a general perception component on characters
That's
that
old.
can handle several types of senses. Normal human will obviously have things such as vision and hearing, but once sitting down inside a spaceship, they'll also be able to interface with that spaceship's radar and the group information about the different senses into its perception component. This will now allow us to progress easily towards more character control behaviors on spaceships, since we're removing strict dependencies between the game code and specific behaviors running on the vehicles themselves.
Such as...
Cinematics team, as always, is making steady progress.
Wow. Germany's got a lot of
across multiple
updates here.
chapters this month. Some implementing brand new scenes, some they're polishing existing ones. As I previously mentioned, I unfortunately can't show anything specific at the moment without spoiling anything, and they'll all yell at me. In the coming months, though, we're hoping to show you a few bits to really give you an idea on the quality bar that we've set. We've set the bar high for ourselves, and it'd be good to show that off in the work that we're proud of.
You think he gets crazy when he gets
The
drunk?
VFX team here in Frankfurt is continued working on planetary effects.
I feel like he lets
Systems
loose
for
on Saturdays and
implementation have been
Fridays.
progressing nicely thanks to the close collaboration between the VFX artists and our engineers.
Like, look at the
here.
integration with a
We
rock with the
started
sand. Like,
implementing
it doesn't just look like just plopped. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Let me rewind it.
Frankfurt is continuing.
Like, that shit looks good. Like, the
Working
shit,
on
the small ones,
connectivity
okay, yeah,
specs.
they look kind of plopped.
The systems for implementation have been progressing nicely.
But there's enough texture difference between the actual rock and the sand that I buy it. You know what I mean? I buy the integration.
Thanks to the close collaboration between the VFX artists and our engineers here. They started implementing some of the new effects on the planets, including various atmosphere and weather effects, as well as more specific effects for various types of assets that will be distributed with the object scattering system. The Frankfurt environment team has been primarily focused on finalizing the moons. The procedural asset distribution system has seen a lot of progress and is still improving. All the separate pieces that make up our procedural planets and moons are
Steam being released from the
starting to
moons.
fall in place, you could say, and things are looking great. So that wraps us up for Frankfurt. Thank you for all the support that everyone gives us on a daily basis. The team honestly, truly, really appreciates it. And I'll see you again soon.
The force be with you,
That look
Brian.
at parametric blending really shows how creating something like walking animation, which sounds really very simple, is actually difficult to do in an interactive universe.
Yes, there is a lot of iteration involved in developing new gaming tools, but it's worth it, especially when you want to create a detailed and realistic final product.
As you may have
Fair
heard,
enough.
the 262 update was released to the PTU. We've been receiving helpful feedback
Can,
from players, which the team is using to fix
I wasn't
as
gonna
many
I wasn't gonna
bugs
watch
as
the Mega Map
possible
one because I think I
before it goes
understood
live.
it. But can you guys give me a
And as
quick
you probably
rundown of the
saw on
Mega Map?
forums,
It
the
was
latest patch includes
large
additions to
scale
the Drake
multiplayer
interplanetary
maps,
lineup,
right?
the
That's what it is. That
Buccaneer.
hold
We
like
decided
32
not
or
to
64
announce the
people, something like
inclusion of
that.
the Buccaneer before the Evocati release because we weren't quite sure how the untested ship would fly. Fortunately, the Buccaneer surpassed our expectations. To celebrate, we're having a Drake sale. For the next 10 days, you can get the Buccaneer, Dragonfly, Caterpillar, and more.
Speaking of the Buccaneer,
All right.
a while back,
I didn't miss it.
Gardner
I didn't miss
and
the sale.
Chevron premiered part one
Thank God.
of the ship pipeline featurette. In it, the team followed the ship through the first half of its production pipeline to showcase the process each of our ships takes to become flight ready.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend going back and watching that featurette to see how the Buccaneer went from concept art to basic white box model and then back to the ship artist for the Greybox phase.
Well, with the ship flight ready, we can now share the second part of the ship pipeline featurette. We're picking up right where
Gimme.
we left off with the gray boxing of the Buccaneer complete. Take a look.
And you guys buy the Buccaneer?
Last time we spoke about the white box stage and the gray box stage. Since then, we've moved on to doing the final art stage and what we call flight ready stage.
And that's really where it's just putting the extra polish into the ship, making sure not just that it flies, but that it flies how we want it to. Not just that you can blow it up and that it takes damage, but that it looks fantastic when you do that. It has the right amount of health. Its shields are working and soaking the amount of damage that we're intending them to, and really just putting all the final touches on the ship.
What we essentially do is we finish off the surface of the ship. So we decide what materials.
Was that a Baywatch shirt?
Any of the geometry is going to be. So if we're going to go with a raw metal,
That's
or
phenomenal.
painted metal, we'll make sure we create all the textures necessary for each material. So, you know, we have wire textures. We'll go ahead and use palms, which is a parallax occlusion mapping texture. It's basically a decal which makes the surface look like it has a lot more detail geometry-wise than it actually does. And we'll use that in order to add rivets to the surface, cut lines onto the wings as an example, where no actual geometry exists. So it looks far more detailed geometry-wise than it actually is, which makes it more efficient to run an engine. It uses less resources, but it looks great. It ends up looking like there's tons of detail on the ship. And it's actually one of our favorite parts to start working on. Once we get to that stage, it really is about detailing it and sort of.
Wait, that
bringing
looked
it
like
to
its own
life
plane.
in terms of the way it looks.
Hold on.
Because we have a lot of freedom as to how we. Great. It ends up looking like.
Look at
there's
this.
Tons of
How's that not extra geometry?
detail on the ship, and it's actually one of our favorite parts to.
Look, right here. That's a plane. That's 4 extra vertices. Like, why won't they build that into? I guess I don't understand. Why won't they build that into just the texture on here? That is extra geometry. I must be missing something.
Start working on. Once we get to that stage, it really is about detailing it and sort of bringing the ship to life in terms of the way it looks. Because we have a lot of freedom as to how we make these cut lines, start dancing across the ship without actually having to affect the geometry in any significant way. We'll make sure during that stage also to finalize all the animations. So we'll bring in Jay Brushwood in Texas in order to finalize all that, change the timing on the animations if we need to.
Finally get to get my hands in it and get nitty gritty in terms of setting up pivots, the hierarchy structure of the ship. And for those that you don't know, the hierarchy is basically a parent-child relationship. For instance, it's like your hand being a child of your forearm being a child of your upper arm. Same thing deal on the ship. We've got all sorts of
inverse
hierarchy
kinematics,
structures
baby.
where things can branch out and do their own thing. For instance, with the landing gear, the foot of the landing gear is going to be attached to the ankle of the landing gear, and then we might have pistons that go in and out of each other, and that allow the landing gear to fully retract in.
That's fantastic.
And
That's
so
fantastic
anyway,
landing gear design.
I get the opportunity to go ahead and work on the timing of the animations, and this is where you actually add the bit of flair with overlapping action and a lot
bounce.
of principles of animation
When it
of
comes
how
down,
things deploy, and the various parts of the ship that we end up setting up animations for are things like the landing gear, the ladder entry, canopy opening and closing. All sorts of this stuff needs to be worked out. And then we export that all to game. And once it's exported to game, the next thing we do is we set up the character interaction. And this
Megamat means faster loading times. Wow, I was way off.
Opening up
Thanks, Jamie.
Drawer, opening up a hatch, all the various things.
For me, the whole process is kind of building a puppet that I then get to play with. And the animation part is where it comes to life, and that's where the illusion sort of comes.
I haven't checked
together.
out
This is also the
2.6.2
stage
yet.
where we
Is the
allow the VFX team to come in and start doing all of their effects.
Are the load times a lot
as an
faster?
Example.
So the difference between the effects that you'll see on the Buccaneer compared to other Drake ships would be pretty much driven by what that ship looks like and what the function of that ship is compared to the other ships. I suppose the best example is the thrusters. So the color scheme and the style of the thruster effects for the Buccaneer, they're going to be sharing similarities with the other Drake ships. However, the thrusters
They're using Google Drive.
shape on that ship, and the thrusters actually animate in a specific way to that ship. So that's going to drive what our effects look like compared to the other ones. So the VFX pipeline itself, we will go to from the R&D to the block out. We then have
This is a small thing, but even though it's probably not like all of them are synchronized in real life, wouldn't it be kind of cool if these little flaps were just like a couple milliseconds off of each other, just so there was some variation? That'd be so stylish.
Which is the artist's first attempt at getting that effect as kind of good as it can get it, and then that will get reviewed. We will provide feedback from that review, and then it goes into the polish pass. So the polish pass is once that's done and once that's signed off and it's been optimized as well, because that's a big part of getting the effects finished in the game. Then that's it. Then
the sign off, yeah.
And we consider it flight ready.
UI likes to be involved with kind of all milestones. Of
Load
the
times for
pipeline,
you and an
so the
SSD,
Greybox and
5
white
to 10
box.
seconds. Holy shit.
A lot of the ships use the same UI style. There's definitely quite a
All
few
right.
that
I guess it worked.
require unique screen shapes and sizes. We have a lot of great upcoming ships that have very unique, bespoke designs on them. So the earlier we know about those.
Last
designs,
weekend,
the more
I
we can start
visited
working
my
on the visual side of
father
things. But as for the
in
Buccaneer and a lot of other ships, they
upstate New
quite a
York,
lot of them
and
use the same template system. So UI can be kind of
we
hands-off
built a
to it.
computer. He hadn't built a
When it-
computer in a
when it
while. I was
came
getting a new
to doing the
computer,
Buccaneer,
and
they
he
made
had never had an
very
SSD, hasn't had an
clean. It's
SSD
been
drive
pipeline
yet.
introduced already,
So we put one in,
plugging the new screens in
and
was
he was used to Windows 10 loading in like
basically after
3-4 minutes with his old
three
computer.
models.
He had an old ass computer,
there's
but we
very
built it from scratch. We got all the parts delivered, and I built
Eventually
it.
we want to have the Drake ships
And,
have their own look and feel, the Anvil ships, everything kind of.
When Windows started
all
up,
might have the same
restarted,
sizes
and started up, and
configurations.
like
We want them to have their own
it was
unique
like
colors and
4 or
feel
5
and
seconds. Like he
different
couldn't believe it.
Our audio
It was like
production Nicola Grelk, takes care of communication between.
And it really is. SSD drives like one of the big advancements.
We can see that sort of large ships are
That and the
coming down
PCIe
pipeline.
drive.
We can allocate time to work on those. Smaller ships are going to require less time, so the smaller ships tend to wait until more towards the end before we start working on them. But they all need to have the same amount of emotional connection with the player. So, for example, with the Drake craft, we're looking at, the lineage, the Herald, the Caterpillar, these other ships, what they sounded like and what they felt like to fly. It's quite different from the Buccaneer. The Buccaneer is far more kind of finessed than, say, the Herald. The Herald's like a can with the rocket strapped to it. I mean, it's like it's going to explode any second, and that's part of its charm, It's sort of agricultural, and this is the feeling we get.
I like the Herald.
We can only really tell that when the ship's got all its decals and detail and stuff in situ, and we can decide what that should sound like.
Here's the Herald thrusters for a quick comparison.
That sounds badass. I'm sorry. I love that.
In there, it's raw. You're strapped to a rocket. And here's our Buccaneer. That's the Drake sound. Yeah.
Yeah.
The thrusters are made up of lots and lots of layers, and here's one of them that gives it a very distinctive tone as we traverse the thrust range here, moving up towards maximum thrust. You hear the sound morphing and changing in character right up to the top.
It must have been so fun coming up with all the unique signatures, sound signatures.
That's kind of a synth layer in the background, giving it some character. So this synth element is just one element of many that make up the compound thruster sound, but look how many real-time parameters are bound to this single synth sound. All of these here are going to react to the player's input to the ship controls, and they all change the pitch and the filtering and the volume of the various elements, which gives it a very organic feel. As one element rises in tone with a strain on the ship, another electronic buzz might fall in tone in a sympathetic way. And in turn, that provides a very natural interaction within the sounds. And that's exactly how we give the ships more of a voice, a realistic, flexible character.
You think other games like space simulations, do you think they just have the time or the money or even the patience or even they give a shit to just sit down and like work all this out or think about this stuff?
Taking the
awesome.
lineage from the other Drake ships and bringing it across to the new ship is what we're trying to do, but also create something unique in the new ship. It's not like a kit bash. It's not the sort of copy-paste from an old ship to a new ship. It's about taking ideas from those other Drake ships and bringing them across into the new sound design sessions for the Buccaneer, but creating something unique in the process as well.
Then the last stage in the process for us on the art side is the flight ready stage. And during this stage, we are not really focusing on what the ship looks like anymore. We've already sort of finalized that.
The sign-off
stage. We are
stage.
filling in some of the gaps that are necessary for gameplay to be fully fledged on the ship. So what that means is
Chris Roberts' approval.
Damage.
I am involved in every ship in the pipeline. And I jump in about white box stage. After concept's done, the modeling gets laid out, design has put some features in. I'll go in and I'll look at what the design is, what's been done so far, and start to think about destruction. Very early on, we start to think about how the ship will break apart. So we'll talk about how the meshes get divided very early. And in the case of the Buccaneer, Pat
Yeah.
handled the damage.
I did watch that
and the
one, Jamie,
lighting,
I think.
And I handled some of the optimization work. And
There was one
what
more
we
I
did
wanted to
for
watch after this. It
optimization
was
we do a process called skinning, and it's like rigging a character.
Oh, wait, no,
where
Mega
you
Map.
make several meshes, a single mesh, which reduces draw calls, which
Yeah, I'll
which
start-
improves performance.
I'm pretty sure I watched
And,
that
that also needs to be hooked
I'll
up
check it out after
to
this.
our mannequin animation platform and driven through, say, the thrust of the engine needs to dilate the nozzle of the engine. So I had to hook that up. And the landing gear of the ship needs to deploy and allow you to rest on a platform and have proper collision and materials. And so I handle all that.
When I get the ship from an artist, the first things I do are I start to set it up for detachability. What that usually entails is going to Max and the XML, setting up the variety of components like the wings detaching, and normally in this stage, we're
Solid
getting this
beard,
done
dude, solid
so
beard.
Design can start to iron out health values.
God,
how
look at
parts
that.
break
Look at
off,
look at
and
that.
How it affects the flyability of the ship. So before I even get into doing shaders and effects and making it look pretty, you just got to get it to work. After I do all the detachments,
okay.
I set off how the pieces fly off the ship, and those are called vectors. So when you blow off a piece of geo, it's going to spin around, right? And that's based on its pivot point. And then that's going to rotate, and then it's just going to go flying off into space. So I set up how that works. After that, I also go into the XML and I set up pieces that will detach with other pieces. So say, for example, you blow off a big, huge engine on the Buccaneer, right? But there's a wing attached to that. There's also a thruster, and maybe there's a little wing flap behind it. You ask yourself, if the explosion was big enough, would it take off these other pieces surrounding it? So shoot that, and then you can have extra pieces fly off with actual probability. So it's kind of random whether the pieces fly off or not. That's actually just the sort of damage setup phase. I want to get into making sure everything starts to look appropriate when it breaks off. That involves getting ready for shader damage that we've added. We've talked about that, where we have procedural damage shader, which melts across the surface. For that, we needed to do what's called UV2 setup. And now, if you know, UVs are how your texture gets mapped onto the surface of an object. So in our game, we have two sets of UVs. We have one set of UVs for the basic texture on your surface of your ship, and we have another set of UVs for your damage map to melt and wear across. You're creating like a mesh that closely resembles the shape of the actual ship, and from there it's kind of
Wait, if it's a whole
trial and
different set of UVs, that means there could be
methodology for it.
a whole
and,
different
kind of working
mapping.
out as we go. Quality gets better as we keep going through.
That
but
means it could
that's
be
the
a
basic
totally
setup.
different size
So
shader. It doesn't have to be
now what
like
I'm
the
doing is
same.
once I get into the editor, I start to shoot the ship, right? And I'm testing and I'm making sure that there's two types of damage happening. There's a decal happening when you shoot. So a bullet hole will leave a burn or a bullet ding. But there's also the shader damage which should happen around it. Now the shader damage works for different weapon
so
types.
good.
So laser
That's
will
so
leave
good.
like a melty wear, and a bullet will leave an actual indent that has metal. As you keep shooting, you can tear a hole. As you tear a hole, the modelers have prepped it so that there's internal damage.
Before tech art can implement any of the damage, we have to build it. So we need to actually generate the content that gets revealed in the damage process, the actual setup of it. So we'll do internal damage structure. So this is, like I mentioned before, this is where we build.
Dude, there's gonna be like
internal
just
structure for the wing
massive
and the
like
body, so
gatherings
there's
of just
something there to show. And
destruction
we'll
derbies. That's what I'm
also
looking for. There's
do
gonna be like
initial
destruction
pass on
ship
called
derbies where people are
UV2s.
just like
Essentially, it's just the second UV channel, which we use
pay like
to generate
10,000
procedurally on the fly
credits
alpha
to
map, which then tells the engine where
for
to reveal
to
the
destroy a
damage
certain
on the
ship or something like that.
After I've done the UV2s,
It'd be a
and
cool
I've
little
tweaked it,
industry.
It looks good, and there's lots of melting metal and all sorts of fun stuff going on. I move on to the VFX. Now, there's multiple people working on VFX. I'm doing more preparatory VFX. Since I do the shader damage, there's two parts to it. There's what's called squibs, which are little kind of explosive charges that create shader damage in a radius. I set the radius in max. And then there's actual particles like fire, electricity, smoke, explosions, you name it, right? Now, I don't actually build the particles, but what I do is I go into a library where all the particles are held, and I start to set up all the pieces, and I pick effects, and I put them where I think things are exploding. Are there tubes here? Maybe there should be gas. Is there, something like that. After I set all that up, and it looks great, and there's parts flying around, and fire, and smoke and stuff, then I send it to the actual particle guys who then do an optimization to make sure that I'm using the correct libraries. And the very last final bit is actually making sure that everything detaches correctly, right? So when a piece blows off, does the gun go flying off with it? Artists will generally do the lights on their ships, so they'll do that as part of the art pass. And then we'll have the components. So if a wing flies off and there's lights on the wing, the light should fly off with the wing. That's part of the setup pass, right? Common sense, but usually there's a bit more setup to it than that. So with lighting, there's two things. We have what's called prefabs for multi-light, which means that when a player gets in a cockpit seat, it then powers on all the lights around him. Then we have what are called object container lights, which are slightly different. Object containers are new tech, someone else will talk about. But basically, when we have lights in an object container, they're always on. So we use these mainly for more interior, sometimes aesthetic lights that always just need to maybe be on. Anything that needs power fits in a multi-light. I do all that in the ship's setup level. So that's kind of post-phase, but that's the final phase. And from there, it's polish, right? You just shoot it, make sure everything looks good. There's no bad UVs, no parts hanging on, et cetera, et cetera. But for the most part, that's the tech art pass, and then it goes off to all the departments for finalization.
One of the interesting challenges that always pops up as we're finishing off a ship are sort of the random things. It's like, oh crap, I can't believe I forgot that. Or just chasing down why something doesn't work for no reason. One of the more notorious aspects of that is usually our collision.
It's making me want to play. I want to jump in and play right now.
We're actually just getting the landing gear in. It all functions and looks proper now. But occasionally it doesn't want to act like it's turned on, and so the ship can fall through the ground and just blow itself up for no reason.
Right now I'm chasing up several loose ends. We've got some shader issues, we've got some texture issues. So I'm also chasing up issues with the thruster, not delivering parameterized values to our nozzle correctly, and the glow on the material that's inside the engine. These things will all be solved before the public finally sees it.
And it's just getting those little parts lined up where it's like, okay, do we have to adjust this helper to get that cleaned up, or do we have to adjust the landing gear itself, and start chasing down almost to which discipline. It's like, okay, this is going to be the cleanest fix for our problem. This is going to be
I love
the
that
best
design.
fix
It's so good, isn't it?
long term for making sure that if we have to do something similar again, it's like, oh, we can refer to this ship because we fix that really clean there this way, and we can apply that to whatever other ship we want to.
So I'm probably the last person to get hands-on with the ship, and that's kind of an overlapping stage where Test and myself have a little back and forth when the ship comes to us, and it's about tweaking and taking what's already been designed for and making sure that that's
Sound like you have the most accountability, dude.
in-game. The process of balancing it, it's kind of, you need to be able to see how, it's kind of like ranking it in with all the other ships, really. So being able to see how all the other ships compare to each other, that's kind of my job, to make sure that nothing comes in with flight tuning in particular. This ship does not outperform where it should be. It's not too fast, it's not too maneuverable, where it should sit right where it should sit. It's a difficult thing to get right, and it's often a lot of back and forth even now with testers internally and externally, where they point out mistakes or imperfections in the flight model of the ship, the flight tuning of the ship. It's when it comes to weapons, it's kind of the same. You need to make sure that the ship loadout isn't too powerful when it comes to dogfighting against each other.
God.
When it comes to finding problems with imbalance, like with weapon loadout, for instance, it's up to me to point that out to the designer in charge of the ship, see if there's any leeway. The Buccaneer being another example of that, with it having a very large loadout for weapons. It hits really hard. It packs a punch. I was concerned about that it may be overstepping its bounds a little bit in terms of wider balance. So that conversation we had, it's all about the trade-offs. So if we can ensure that ship is weak, but still hits hard, then that's fine. That's balanced.
The buck stops here. That should be the tagline for the ship.
I'm supposed to be talking to you guys about this stuff.
Ooh.
We're not really going into all the details of the company right now.
What? What? What?
And there's something shady happening at Drake Enterprises that you won't want to miss. And that's it for this episode of ATV. We want to thank
What
all
the hell is that,
subscribers
guys?
out there
Hold on,
who
I gotta
make
look
this
at this
show
again.
possible.
I'm really not sure I'm supposed to be talking to you guys about this stuff. We're not really going into all the details of the company right now.
A takedown article for Drake Interplanetary?
There's something
What the
shady
hell's going on there?
happening at Drake Enterprises that you won't want to miss.
They're stepping up their
And that's
game
it
on
for
the
this
ATV
episode
stuff.
of
There's
ATV.
some
We
cool,
wanna thank all the subscribers
cool stuff
out
going
there
on.
who make this show possible.
They're getting
For
creative.
the month of April, subscribers can test fly the Gladius Valiant. The Valiant is the first ship to defeat the Vandal in combat.
Sounds like an awesome dogfighter. We're also giving an active subscribers Big Benny's vending machine flare on April 17th. So, if you've been thinking about becoming a subscriber, join before April 17th to qualify for this deal. Click on the link in the description below for more information.
Of course, Star Citizen exists because of our backers. So thank you again
All
for
right,
all
let me
your support. Tomorrow, kick off your weekend with Star Citizen Happy Hour at 12 Pacific. Ben Lesnick and Jared Huckby will be playing one of Chris's classic games, Wing Commander Privateer. Ben will
Oh, yeah,
also
I saw
share
that on
some
there, actually.
little-known
Interesting.
history about the game's development.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you
Round the verse. Oh, they got rid of the shit. Nice clean credits. I like that. All right, let me Jamie, let me check out. I'm gonna just make sure I saw that one. I'm gonna watch the 10 for the chairman another time. And is there anything in the mega map that's worth checking out?
And
Yeah, I did see the hurricane and character customization. Let me I'm gonna check out the mega map. A little bit of it before we call it quits here. And yes, that I like that one, Jamie. This one's kind of short too. It's only like 25 minutes. Now I can finish my pizza.
Hello, and welcome to Around the Verse, our weekly look at the development of Star
Well, you look
Citizen.
pretty,
I'm
Sandy.
Sandy Gardner, and
You got a
while
bow
Chris
ties.
Roberts visits the Frankfurt studio, I've been joined today by CG Supervisor Forrest Steffen. Thanks for stopping by, Forrest.
And thanks for having me. It's,
Have we ever seen his hair?
In today's
Forrest's
episode,
hair.
we'll share how the Mega Max feature eliminates load screens between levels, which means more time for gameplay and less time waiting. Very important stuff.
very important. But first, let's kick it off with Eric Davis and our Los Angeles studio update. Take it away, Eric.
Dude's got blue eyes.
Hey all, I'm Eric Kyron Davis, senior producer here in Los Angeles. We've had quite a busy month since we last talked, so let's just dig right in. To start off, our ship team has been working on the Drake Buccaneer. Art has created a
That's the
custom
Drake-
dual weapon mount.
Drake Interplanetary
All LEDs
Engineer.
have been generated. The tech content team has implemented UV2s and damage. Tech design is making their flight balance pass, which will get it ready for flight with sound. VFX is making solid progress as well. The Drake Buccaneer will be a great addition to the Drake lineup, and we really can't wait until you're in the cockpit. The ship team has also made a lot of progress on the newly revamped RSI Aurora. The white box phase is now complete, which includes a proxy laying out the space, establishing the animation positions, laying out the screens, and making sure the characters could hold the controls. We've started the final geometry on the cockpit in an effort to improve the inside of the ship. Now that tech design has implemented all the art updates into the ship's new archetype, the RSI Aurora is heading into Greybox. It's been awesome to see all these different pieces come together and breathe a whole new life into an already great design. We're really looking forward to finishing up and getting it back in the air. There are a few other ships making their way through design, as well as a slew of quality of life bugs fixes for the upcoming 2.6.2 release, but we're not quite ready to reveal those just yet. In addition to ship production, the tech design group completed the design for multi-function displays, or MFD screens, which control power, heat, coolers, shields, weapons, countermeasures, and missiles in preparation for Item 2.0 functionality. These designer prototypes are meant to help us understand what's needed and see how everything will interact with each other. Once these designs have been approved, the amazing UI team will create an interface to take advantage of that functionality that engineering is implementing in the back end.
Like 95% of the people are going to be confused as shit.
Knowledgeable crew will be able to operate their ship,
trying to operate their ship properly, you know what I mean? Like balancing everything. But I guess that's every space.
Not only your playstyle, but potentially save your life during a devastating attack. This month, QA aided LA development, checking a variety of fixes for 2.6.2, while also providing support to Austin QA with PTU and live sanity checks, smoke tests, sweeps, and deployments, and helping new hires get up to speed with the game. As for feature work, the team swept ship destruction VFX, item system 2.0, and implementation of recent loadout changes, and tested multiple iterations of new targeting and ESP code. For a quick reminder on quality assurance terms, a sanity check basically ensures the game loads, which is now automated, but still could take an hour and then another 30 to 60 minutes to investigate any error that arrives. A smoke test checks the basic functionality, but this takes 6 to 8 people roughly a day if there aren't any major issues. And a full sweep means checking everything you possibly can, a process which requires a much larger team and can take over a week. As you'd expect, full sweeps are most arduous, rigorous, and intense, but also incredibly important. Now, over on the narrative team, they've been hard at work at some additional 3.0 missions. They've also started some much-needed documentation, posters, and props to help populate the world of Star Citizen. They've also made a lot of progress on the Xi'an history and society documentation by creating an equivalent time capsule approach for the Xi'an history from birth to present day. Also, those that saw the 3-lateral head test portion of GDC.
Hey, that's my headset.
We can now talk about how the team has been doing breakdowns of ethno groups in the Star Citizen universe, utilizing the power behind that technology as our character customization is rapidly coming together. Now, the engineering team has begun work on the new shop entity that uses data core components. It will allow shops to easily be streamed in and object containers, which will be finished in the next sprint. The plan is to make shops more dynamic and reactive to the economy by retrieving their inventory from the back end. The engineering team
is there any reason to not have player shops, guys? Come on.
Designers to specify the interior grid type of the vehicle.
Can I set up my own shop?
This is a pretty
I don't even need a space. I just need a digital shop.
Storage, as all ships
Come on.
to medium size.
Please.
Now, last time we discussed the development of the new light group entity that was equipped with a state machine to serve as the ultimate light switch. Now, the implementation of the core
all you guys want combat
is complete. The next step is to start using the light group
and ass kicking
and environments and replace all instances of old layer switching method of light management. This new light group entity has allowed us to reduce the number of lights we've been using, which has dramatically impacted performance. For example, on the Drake Caterpillar, we were able to reduce from hundreds, almost thousands of entities down to 90 or less with no visual impact. And that's just the beginning. In the upcoming weeks, we will continue to evolve the light group with additional features based on feedback from other departments. We've been developing also a
framework, like over 1,000% decrease,
or intelligent flight control system for the autopilot to handle situations like a takeoff and landing sequence. This also applies to AI control. They'll be providing the AI developers with a set of tools for controlling the ship, like a move to or change to, etc. This will improve stability and predictability of ship motion under optimal conditions. There was also a large update to our room system and atmosphere containers, with the addition of several new features, as well as better debugging tools and several bug fixes. So far, the room system has only been implemented in a few locations, but these changes will allow us to fully implement rooms and atmosphere throughout the various locations and ships in the game. At the moment, all the airlocks you enter and exit are scripted events. They don't factor in atmosphere of any kind. With this new system, we'll be able to replace this setup with an actual room and atmosphere that allows for a dynamic experience. In addition to the...
You know what that means? That means you're going to have the possibility to have cool shit happen, like a door is going to blow off its hinges, and the atmosphere pressure actually, what is it on the outside, is actually going to like throw you up against the wall and then suck you out or something. That's gonna be some cool stuff. And what if they layer on like a damage component on top of it too? So maybe like there's a leak or something, and maybe there's a mission there's like a leak and you have to get to it before it breaks out and you have to, it's like a repair mission. So it's not a mission. It's not like a combat mission, but it's a repair mission. Cool shit like that. So there's like so you can see like the air escaping like in this little small crack because there's actually a friggin' crack there based on a damage model or something. That's really cool. That's really cool.
Room system changes. They've added a feature to allow the designers and artists to set wear and dirt parameters for loadouts. This functionality comes in 2 levels, overall as well as individual values for specific items. Wear and dirt values are used by the render node to set shader parameters that make items look old or dusty, scuffed up, and burnt out. You've seen an example of this on the module surface outpost seen in the last week's studio update. This task also used loadout editor side work, where the team added UI support to edit wear and dirt. We've recently also started working on a pretty massive task called the Entity Owner Manager. To give you a little background, this is a core feature required to take our gameplay from a multiplayer game to a persistent online experience. This system will be responsible for managing.
I'll take you for a walk. Let me finish this one. Wrap up the stream and I'll take you for a walk.
In conjunction with the back-end persistent
foster dog, so
to
needy.
Indicate dynamic changes to the world that need to be tracked and persisted across sessions. The Entity Owner Manager will also need to work with various game and entity engine systems, including debris, salvage, criminality, streaming, missions, cargo, shop, and much more, to help create the persistent experience across clients and servers. In other news, the team has been working on scanning subcomponents, which require us to do some slight refactoring of the object data bank. Now the data bank can support the storage of child entities, which will be the subcomponents on ships, players, etc. In doing this, we also improve the thread safety of accessing data within the databank, which allows us to move some calculations onto other threads, which will help improve performance. This work is focusing on 2 big elements, the ping component and angle of focus. The ping component is the method in which a player or pilot will send out a wave to see if there are objects out there of note within their scan range. This could also be a ship, an asteroid, or even signal traces that mark whether a player entered or exited a quantum travel. Other players can detect these traces.
Oh, because the quantum travel
could have some
leaves
pretty
behind
heavily
some
game implications.
Quantum
For example,
signatures.
if
That's
you're
cool.
an outlaw, it would allow you to track potential prey. Angle
That's
of
really
focus
cool.
allows
That's
players to adjust the angle with which they're scanning.
That means
A
that's gonna. I'm
smaller
gonna have
angle
no
will
problem
provide
tracking.
range,
I'll have a problem,
only
but I'll be able to
contacts
easily
within
kind of
the
see.
angle can be detected.
I wonder if
We're
I
currently
wonder if the digital
refactoring
signature will be like
underlying radar
metadata
query
in the
logic
internet,
to
right?
zone queries rather than a huge
Like a quantum
iteration of
signature will
registered
have
radar
like
objects,
a
which will make the
ship
scanning
ID or
system
something.
much more efficient.
Like leave some sort
Now,
of
if you
trace.
remember from our last update,
Or much like
our tech
metadata,
content team supports and
like a
implements
header
every pipeline within
call
Star
in the
Citizen
browser,
and Squadron
like
42.
device. Maybe
One
they'll
of
be
the
able to tell
main
it's like a
focuses
Drake,
for this team is
like a Drake
performance
Buccaneer or
improvements.
something. That's
For
cool.
instance, we changed our mesh vertex and position formats, which massively improves streaming of these meshes as well as reduces build size. They've also been improving the Python integration within our editor, which allows for faster development of Python tools usable by every department across the company. They can now script any sandbox process they want. For example, placing asteroids, generating modular outposts, etc. All of which saves a tremendous amount of development time on otherwise tedious and time-consuming tasks. You also may have noticed the players' helmets were disappearing once they got to a certain distance away from you. As discussed in the character customization featurette not too long ago, we've now converted all helmets to a .skin format. The conversion was important to allow a unified LOD ratio across the character skins, meaning no more helmetless people running around the verse. So don't be afraid. As the oxygen system comes online, we would hate to be the reason you lose that FPS battle on the dark side of the moon. To ensure this is easier in the future, Tech Content has also created tools that rig skins and exports automatically. This dramatically reduces dev time from potentially an entire day down to just a few minutes. Now that helmets are optimized, heads were next on the agenda. We've successfully converted all heads to use the human skin shader developed by our graphics team. Since we do 44 different areas of blended wrinkles and blended diffuse, our texture cost is quite high at about 100 megs per head. With this change, we were able to save roughly 90% of the original memory cost without a discernible visual impact. This means we can have a lot more characters in the scene without melting your graphics card. With the implementation of the female character progressing rapidly, we've transferred thousands of animations from male to female to complete her motion set and provide a data for animation to start iterating on. This will also allow us to focus on refinement and subtleties without compromising on what she'll be able to do when exploring the universe. There's quite a bit more to do, but we're making leaps forwards every day. Another character animation tool the tech content team has been completed is this track and report the number of various wild lines each character will have in the universe. With our over 1,255 pages of script for Squadron 42, which includes all storylines as well as wild lines, we needed a tool to continuously generate reports on how many we've completed and what we have left to solve. Once the various lines are all in, the system will be able to pull those lines based on player action and situation, and also randomize the potential wild line response so the NPCs aren't repeating the same line every time. To help our cinematics team for Squadron 42,
that's actually
the tool
a
was
big
made to
step.
allow for visibility of scenes before they even hit the engine. This allows for fast exporting of animations.
Even like Mass Effect, I'm like standing around, like just leaving it open while I'm doing something else, like working or something.
To review the many hours of cinematics for Squadron 42.
And even after like a
The
minute, I
character
start
team
hearing
has been blasting through the concept phase,
repeats.
the high poly phase, and onto the in-game mesh of the Heavy Outlaw. Next, it's going to go into rigging and implementation. We've also sent the light, medium, and heavy female marine armor, as well as the undersuit to rigging and implementation. Once we had that male base suit done, we utilized a wrap technique with adjustments to save development time and ensure we're getting everything together as quickly as possible. Another suit that has moved through the high poly phase is the female explorer suit. So she'll be exploring the universe in no time. On the Squadron 42 character front, both the EVA deck crew and the Marine BDU have gone through high poly and are onto the in-game mesh and texturing phase, which means they should be in rigging and implementation in no time. In a category of things we can't talk about, we've continued developing the Van Duel as well as medium and heavy versions of the OMC Outlaw faction. And lastly, the mechanized Titan suit is in R&D along with other alien concept skulls.
Come on,
and a whole
give me a
lot
tease.
more
I want to see that
we
one.
Can't reveal just yet, but stay tuned for updates in the coming weeks. Well, that does it here for Los Angeles. Thank you so much for your support. We'll see you again soon.
Good update.
As you may have seen on our production schedules, our developers have been working on a new system called Megamaps. Understandably, some of you may not know what that means.
Yeah, it is a tough concept to grasp. In the simplest terms, Megamap means to eliminate the loading screens. So it basically streamlines the object containers while loading in and out the different areas and the different game modes.
The goal of Megamaps is to allow players to travel through the universe without interruption or lag time. To better explain how Megamaps does this, let's take a look.
So it's not reduction. Well, I mean, I guess that's all relative, right?
Megamap
It's not reduction of load times, it's the elimination of load times.
Putting into the game to cut a lot of the frustrations with load times out for people, essentially eliminate load screens altogether. The issues that drove us to this technology come from the unprecedented scale of this universe we're creating. What this means is we couldn't load it into one map without crippling memory and performance. So we divided it up and put the segments into object containers which we could load as needed. The problem with that was that it meant players would need to wait through a series of load screens as they moved about in the game. The Megamap was our solution. We load the Megamap as we would a standard map. The Megamap itself is empty, but once the Megamap's loaded, we actually start to fill the Megamap with content of various
so it's
game
like
modes
secondary
via,
loads. So
object containers. So we would
So they load a big empty
load the front end, which is a set of object containers.
low size map
Load the front end game
container.
rules, which tells the game how to work in that game mode. The user would then pick a new game mode to play. At that point, we throw away all the object containers, we throw away the game mode, load in the free flight game mode and the Dying Star object containers, but we do that via streaming rather than a complete level load, so we're able to shave the vast majority of the load time down to a few seconds rather than long enough to warrant a load screen. As you can see, even with Megamap switched on, there is still a load stall. It's only a few seconds compared to the 30 seconds it takes to load without the Megamaps feature, but it's still something we're working to eliminate by making the feature operate asynchronously. So gameplay-wise,
Wow,
I've
can you
said to
imagine the
players if they
whole
wanna be in the
friggin'
front
game starts
end,
loading
changing some
asynchronously?
settings, they can go to a hangar, they can put some items in the hangar, look at their ships, then immediately go back to the front end, no load screens, pick a game mode, such as race mode, they can dive straight into race mode, play around with one ship, decide they don't like
That'd be
that
cool.
ship, come back to the front end, switch to a new ship.
It's actually really
still
important.
no load screens, rather than having a process where they're sat in the front end, they have to think carefully where they want to go because they know there's a load screen coming up. Go there, do some stuff, and then load screen again. So by adding this new feature, we're putting into the game the first application of
It's actually really sick.
Container streaming.
How are they gonna
Will be,
load? How are they gonna load the
a
single player
fundamental
game
part of the PU experience
before
moving
you,
forward,
you click on the
as
single player
PU
game?
becomes essentially
It's almost like the
its
menu would
own
have to
mega
preload
map with a bunch of sets of object containers.
the
that will
area that
stream
you're in,
and
and
out
I don't know. That's kind of cool. Though.
as you move through that map. The thing that makes
That's
it tricky in terms of gameplay programming is with the new flow, we're now not destroying and recreating the player between game modes. So with the new setup, it potentially makes it easier to persist some of the player's attributes between these game modes because of the fact that we're not destroying him and recreating him. So one of the more interesting bugs that the new Megamap flow has produced was QA finding that they could place down a liquor cabinet in their hangar, take a few swigs from a bottle, get slightly blurry vision-wise.
And you're drunk?
They don't want to be in the hangar anymore. They want to go fly their ship in free flight. However, with this new flow, the player's not being destroyed and recreated. So
that's fantastic.
Player, you now find yourself in the ship with trying to fly through space.
That is fantastic. That is fucking fantastic.
The best thing for a player to be doing. So it's something we'll obviously be looking to fix, but a nice
what? Okay.
Kind of interesting challenge.
Before you just call it a bug, okay? Before you just call it a bug, let's put some thought into that and really kind of wrap your head around whether that's a good idea or not. There could be some cool shit there. I'm just saying. Like, maybe you drank the liquor, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I guess that goes into whether you consider like Arena Commander and stuff. Those are modules. Your hangar's a module. Like, you could technically go into that module from the persistent universe, right? So, I don't know. Why couldn't, if you drink in that, I don't know. Don't throw that away right away, because there's something, I can't wrap my head around a good example, but there's something cool you can do with that.
Challenges that we're facing fixing up this new flow.
Megamap for multiplayer is a little bit more complicated. It builds on top of the single player implementation. The tech is the same up to a point. The additional challenge is that each level in our multiplayer game lives on its own server to handle the tens of thousands of players who might visit it at any one time. A multiplayer match and comes to an end and you want to change to another multiplayer game mode and map, then you're going to have to unload the map that you're in, say Down Star, go back to the front end, make your selection as to what you want to do, and then load into the next map, say Broken Moon, doing Pirate Swarm or whatever. Because you're going from connected to a server back to the front end, we've got to drop the connection, but we've got to keep the mega map in memory, empty out all its contents, put all the front end pieces in, let the player make his selection, and then go and connect to another server while keeping a map in memory at the same time, and then streaming all the new pieces for the new map. It's a bit like trying to unplug your computer and then replugging it without losing power. And that's not the way we've been doing things before. It's been very much get to the end of a match, you drop the connection to the server, you clean everything else, and it's kind of like a hard reset of the system. Load in the front end, make your selection, end of that, hard reset of the system, connect to the next server. So we're just keeping the map in memory, but switching connections to servers and switching between single player, multiplayer.
I'm all for it. That's excellent. That's actually a big
without doing this reset,
big deal.
which is a bit of a challenge because the way the engine's being built, it's kind of the assumption that once the system starts up, it'll either be in single player mode or it'll be in multiplayer mode, and it'll always stay that way until the system shuts down again. But now we're changing these things dynamically all the time, so that can create a lot of bugs. So it's kind of been a process of trying it out, finding out what it breaks, fixing it.
Oh, it reminds me, I gotta watch the Game of Thrones promo. I haven't watched it yet.
Fixing it, and just keep doing that over and over. Taking a system like Crusader and extending it, you might have an object container for each of the stations, each of the comms arrays. There'll be an object container that contains references to the object containers for where all these other things are, and they'll just be sort of left there, very lightweight form. And then as you head towards, say, Port Olisar, the object container for Port Olisar will get loaded in and expanded, and that may contain other object containers that contain parts of the interior.
Oh, so
and they'll get
you'll
loaded
seamlessly go into Port Alisar, but then all the subcomponents within Port Alisar will start streaming in once you get there. So there's the potential. Is the potential like you could get ahead of the game almost. You can get ahead of the
assemble them together to
the loading, so to speak. So there might be some pop-ins.
Space station, that's an object container.
But then again, I don't know.
Possibly could be different.
I guess that's part of optimization.
That's linked to an
Still,
object container in space.
having stuff pop in is better
Where
than
that space station is.
long load
That
times.
depends
So
by the sort of root system object container that says where all the different space stations are in that system and different planets and so on. So it kind of scales out that way. But so far it's only been done for the Star Marine maps and Arena Commander maps. When we bring this technology over to PU, it'll have to be done through Crusader and the other systems that are going to come online. So it's a lot of work that we need to do still, but the technology is kind of at the point where we can.
Payoff's going to be worth it.
Star Citizen's a question of scale, really, isn't it? It's taking a standard game and making it much bigger than anything else that's currently out there, and the only way you're going to be able to do that is by focusing on what the player needs to know and tailoring that experience for each player, even though they're all connected to the same server. So you're always looking for opportunities to not do something and avoid that little bit of work. Well, on the computer side of things anyway.
Thanks, guys,
Cool.
for that insight on mega maps. Cutting down on wait time is really important to improving gameplay.
Yeah, absolutely. I also look forward to seeing the multiplayer mega maps.
Ooh, I want that coffee
Star
cup.
Citizen.
Yeah, and then many players will be able to quickly
It's got like
traverse
a
the universe at
brown
the
marble
same
inside.
time. Now, before we wrap up today's show, we want to express our gratitude to all of our subscribers.
Yeah, shows like this one would not be possible without your support, which is why we are rolling out new subscriber perks. Due to popular requests from our current subscribers, we've got a 3rd edition of Jump Point in the works, and we're also making the free flight of the month a permanent edition for all of the subscribers. More details on the subscriber perks. So
all right, this kind of got me pumped up to play. I think I'm going to jump in. Ooh, is there more?
Hey everyone, I'm Sandy Gardner.
And I'm Alexis. We wanted to take this chance to thank all of our subscribers, both Centurions and Centurion or Imperator. You get access to Jump Point.
Jump Point is
Yeah, I think I read about all these.
Subscribers allow us to create all of our video content. Shows like Around the Verse, Bug Smashers, Lore Maker's Guide to the Galaxy, Happy Hour, and Citizens of the Stars, as well as more in-depth events like 10 for the Chairman and Subscribers Town Hall.
We like to put you behind the scenes, hearing from the creators themselves about the development of Star Citizen event ticket program. Click on the link.
That might make it possible to shoot hoops
That's cool.
in the game. Of course, this is a mechanic currently scheduled to go into update. Calyx will try his hand at creating a first-pass game mechanic that might make it possible to shoot hoops in the game. Of course, this isn't a mechanic currently
Play basketball
scheduled
in
to
the
go
game.
in-game.
I just want to play air hockey and
Behind the
pool and
scenes
stuff.
look
I don't need
at
basketball.
visual scripting, all the same.
Wow,
But
sounds
okay.
like a must-see episode. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you
Around the verse. Love it. Is it Forrest Steven or Forrest Stefan? Forrest Stefan. All right, that was cool. That was a good catch-up session. I think that's all of them, guys. Let me just quickly kind of catch up here. Star Citizen videos. Shut up. Citizen of the Stars. I'm going to check out the... Ooh, server bugs. 10 for the chairman, but I'll check out that at a different time. So I think, yeah, I got the... I saw the Hurricane. The only one I might not have seen is the game weapons, the game's arsenal. I got to check that out, though. But either way, I got to take the dog out and do all that good stuff. So, and I kind of want to play. I want to get in there and play. So, all right. I appreciate you guys stopping by here. It was a couple hours just catching up on things. So thanks for the feedback. Thanks for the commentary. If you guys have any questions, please leave a comment, like, subscribe, do all those cool things. And let me know. I'm actually starting to templatize, or not templatize, but brainstorm and kind of sketch out some storyboards for some possible Star Citizen narrative videos and stuff like that. So if any of you guys are interested in acting in any of those, please let me know. Drop me a personal message on on YouTube or on Discord. Join the Discord channel, or you can get a hold of me a bunch of different ways. So if you're available for some filming, now that the new camera controls are in, a lot of it will probably take place once the 3.0 comes out, but there's a lot of ships that I would love to get access to start filming some of these trailers, Star Citizen trailers that I like to do. Anyway, let me know. Let me know about those, and keep me informed if you guys are available for ship usage, so to speak. So, all right, guys, appreciate you stopping by, and I will. I'll see you in the verse. See you in the verse. See you in the comments. That's where I'll see you.